item is approval of the minutes of the last regular meeting. Are there any corrections? If none, they'll stand as approved. Next item is a time for public comment. If anyone from the public would like to have anything they'd like to speak on, please do so now. I guess not. So next thing's item 6.
Mayor and Commissioners, Bonnie Bribieska, Graphic Stitching Unlimited, requests governing body consideration and approval to be recognized as a local business on the application for the itinerant merchant license at 201 West Kansas Avenue. Graphic Stitching Unlimited is located just outside of the zone that would make it a local business for the purpose of purposes of our itinerant merchant license. But in years prior, the Commission has granted Graphic Stitching Unlimited the ability to work through the holiday season and operate as an itinerant merchant at that reduced rate that would be given to local business. I think Sealand might have provided a memo for your consideration. Staff would recommend approval.
I make a motion that we approve Graphic Stitching Unlimited, and recognize them as a local business in reference to their itinerant merchant license.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I would like to bring up something on that. I certainly don't have an objection to the person applying for and getting the local license fee for that. But we have several businesses in the downtown area that do that. And particularly have just opened one up. I'm sure that those people would like to have that business rather than someone just come in and pay less and don't have anything to do with the downtown part. But I would think that maybe next year we could look at this and see if there's any conflict with the local businesses that are out here today, and they could voice their opinions. But for today, I would go along with this, yes.
Any other comments? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carried.
We'd like to recognize Michael Hernandez, foreman of Cemetery Department, as the quarterly safety recognition winner. And Michael's not with us today, but we certainly thank him for his continued diligence in making our workplace safe. Michael will be recognized by his department head, and I also believe there's a personal day.
Yes.
Is that right? That comes with being named a quarterly winner. So thank you, Michael. I'd also like to congratulate Melinda Hitz on the occasion of the city being identified as having achieved the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. This is achieved by governments that choose to go through a comprehensive annual financial report and receive no discrepancies in their in the findings of that independent audit. It is a undertaking by Melinda and the entire staff. They review not just our financials but also management practices, and so congratulations to Melinda. We have quite a streak going of receiving this designation. That doesn't lessen the significance of it. It's a big award. At one point in time, there were only 16 cities, I think, in the state of Kansas. That number's probably gone up in the last few years, maybe, but only 16 cities in the state of Kansas that received this level of achievement.
Congratulations.
And congratulations to our employees on raising $23,000 for Finney County United Way during our recent in-house campaign. That was a fun month, and we appreciate the generosity of our employees and the continued good work by United Way. Cox Communications sent us their fairly regular correspondence. And then there is staff reports submitted by the Airport Director, Neighborhood and Development Services Director, Cemetery Director, Finance Director, Fire Chief, Public Utilities Director. If you have questions on any of those, we'd be glad to try to answer them. All right. With that, I think we're ready for the appropriation ordinance. If approved, it would be appropriation ordinance number 2400-2015A.
I make a motion that we accept the appropriation ordinance 2400-2015A.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Item 9A, which if approved, will be ordinance number
2714-2015.
approves the rezoning of land from C1 Neighborhood Shopping District to R2 Single Family Residential District, amending the zoning ordinance and the zoning map of the city, repealing the current zoning ordinance and zoning map of the city, all to the Court of Ordinances of the City of Garden City. Property at issue is 504 Evans. Caleb?
You have the complete staff report in your packet. This case went before the Planning Commission, the request of the applicant Brent Peterson, and they are rezoning this property to, requested to rezone this property to single family so that they can sell this property as a residential use property. Staff recommendation was for approval of the rezoning, and the Planning Commission recommendation of all 8 commissioners that were present was in favor of rezoning this request. The representatives of the applicants are here if you have any questions, or if you have any questions for staff, if you're not to answer any questions.
I make a motion we approve ordinance 2714-2015.
I'll second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 9B, the governing body is asked to consider and approve an ordinance authorizing the central, actually we need to hang on this item, please. We need to take up item 10A prior to that, and this is the item that changed on the amended agenda. And I can go back and explain if it's all right, Mayor, afterwards. Well, I'll explain it as part of the discussion of 10A, but if we could consider that first. The City Commission is asked to consider and approve, subject to minor changes or additions made by council, a purchase agreement for the former ConAgra plant currently owned by JBS Swift. The Commission had given us direction at their first meeting in September to complete a purchase agreement, which Randy has done, or at least gotten near. He can characterize the discussions with JBS on his own, but if you should choose to move forward with the purchase agreement as presented, we would ask you to hold off on item 9B, and we'll delay that to another meeting. The purpose is we would use the same intermediate financing tool, the temporary notes tool, and we would do that as one issuance. Melinda can speak to what our plans are regarding the temporary notes for either of those projects or both of them together. Anyways, should you choose to move forward with 10A, we would then ask you to remove 9B from this agenda, and we'd put it on the next agenda. So Randy, I'll let you talk more about the real estate purchase agreement.
Yeah. What you have before you is a proposed real estate purchase agreement between the city and Swift Beef Company. JBS is the parent company, I believe, that's involved in the negotiations. And we received this agreement, or I did last Friday, at my prompting and from JBS. And we've been working with their attorney as well as Dave Traster, who's our environmental water rights attorney, to get an agreeable document. We still have some due diligence to work out as far as environmental liabilities and the exhibit that is a disclosure of those liabilities and known environmental concerns at the site. But I don't want to delay the matter any further. And if you can approve the agreement today or authorize the mayor to sign it whenever we get a final agreement, then that would keep things going, because we're trying to get it done with all due diligence, but it's going to take us some time to do the environmental assessment, and we'd just be looking at the next meeting in December, or a second meeting in December, or a special meeting, and I'd like to keep it going if at all possible. It contains the terms and conditions that we talked about before. Purchase price at $2,400,000, and that's for the surface as well as water rights on the properties. So,
And what's the 2.2 million cost of improvements?
Oh, that's for.
Under
fire
9B,
Oh, okay.
that's the item
yeah,
that we're
I know.
not taking up right now, but if you move forward on
I thought
10A,
oh,
you
that's
won't do
central.
9B.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the
Yeah,
fire
okay.
station.
Ah,
We'd end up, and
I understand.
I think Melinda can maybe
I was
address the
thinking those
temporary
two
notice
are
issue.
tied together.
We were intending to issue the temporary notes today for the fire station and along with the water line. But if we can just do one issuance, since we have the amount that we're gonna owe JBS, I would like to just do one issuance for temporary notes. These are gonna be purchased internally with the city, so we don't have to sell these notes internally until we actually have expenses that are needed on the project. So we know we're gonna be paying out the $2.4 million immediately, and we don't have that kind of cash sitting on hand at year end. So getting the temporary financing for both of these projects would save us some interest, some issuance costs. And it just makes sense to just do one issue. And that way, if you have any items before permanent financing, say your water line comes in a little bit less, or the building comes in a little bit less, or if you sell off some JBS property, in the meantime, your permanent financing will just be the amount that you actually need, and you have up to 2 years to do that.
So
Okay?
Thank you.
if we move forward with this agreement, as I read the agreement, we do have to make a deposit of $5,000, initial
Right.
kind of a good faith deposit, is that correct?
yes.
But how the agreements, if I kind of read this,
Mhm.
if any major environmental issues or anything comes up, we can back out of that agreement.
Mhm.
But they do have some due diligence on their part, how I kind of read this, though.
Yes. I
I
mean,
mean,
if there are environmental concerns in excess of $200,000,
Right.
they can terminate the agreement.
okay.
Okay.
I make a motion that we approve the purchase agreement for the former ConAgra plant currently owned by JBS Swift.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carried.
And as a result, we'll not take up the item numbered 9B. And we'll take that up at the next meeting. 10B, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a request from the Garden City Recreation Commission for $41,500 for 2015 big pool operations. Through some memos and some meetings, this number's been arrived at as an amount that the Recreation Commission's requesting reimbursement for operation expenses related to the 2015 season. We had opportunity to discuss this at our pre-meeting. The Commission's asked for some follow-up information, which on this topic and some other topics, we did receive this finalized amount, and so we're submitting it to you for your consideration. And then also as a follow-up item that I would like the Commission to address after this, or at least react to. One of the items that the Recreation Commission had brought up in the pre-meeting was the sale of the property at 302 North 6th. That is owned by the City of Garden City. The Recreation Commission has used their funds to pay back the city for the acquisition of that property, which was part of their long-term plans once upon a time. And now that those plans have changed, there really isn't much needed for that property. And their board feels, and I believe our commission didn't object to this concept at the last meeting, that seeing if that property could be sold and reimburse the Recreation Commission for what they had spent on it, that would be in the best interest of the commission and of the city. We're the owner of record of the property, and so really, all we would need from the commission at some point in time is the direction that you're comfortable with that, and then at that point, I would leave it up to Randy and John or their board to determine if it's best if we divest of it directly or they divest of it. I would say if it's our property and it's a real estate deal, that maybe we should be the ones that, I guess, hammer the sign in the yard, for lack of a better term. So we'll take that up second, but the business item before the commission is the $41,500. Anything to add to that, John?
No, we did come up with that amount by removing one item, and that was the preseason preparation, which was in the amount of $1,424, because that particular number has several facets to it, which would be part of our maintenance division and part of our pool staff. So instead of going through and actually dividing out those hours at that time, it'd just be easiest just to remove that amount.
And this was the amount that you felt like you lost from running the pool?
Yes,
What?
that is correct.
In addition to
Payout.
the $160,000
That we spent.
yeah.
In
What
years
was
past,
it last year? I mean, the year before? What?
220 or 202,000 was the total last year. Just over that, 202,434.
And the
Well,
two
not
previous
lost.
years had produced a surplus,
Surplus?
but they had added expenses this year. Some of those were planned added expenses, and some of those were unplanned added expenses. And really, the city commission doesn't necessarily have a role in reviewing what those expenses are. I mean, they don't seek permission to increase salaries, increase office supplies, increase those types of things. You can through the consideration of whether or not you want to continue the arrangement or whether you wanted to get back into the pool management business. But would certainly be our recommendation at this point to continue to try to look for ways that the Recreation Commission can do this, receive fair compensation from the city to cover reasonable losses. And continue in that relationship. The amount requested for this coming year, which was prior to this number coming up, was $170,000, and that was what was included in your budget. So John has expressed that he doesn't feel that their losses should be anywhere near what they were last year, and that the 170 should be sufficient. I would recommend that the commission, direct me and their board to negotiate a little bit better understanding of this relationship. Right now, there isn't one. It's one of the facilities identified in a master facility use agreement. I don't think it anticipates the operations of the pool at all. I think it reflects more using ball fields and things like that. And while I certainly think that this request, maybe not the amount, but the request is in the spirit of what was agreed to. I was around back then. I don't think we have a good feel for what's included in those costs, what's included in those revenues. Whether or not that means shortfalls and surpluses get reconciled at the end of the year, or just shortfalls. So there is no place that spells that out. We've got a series of 4 or 5 conversations that were captured with a couple sentences and minutes of meetings, and then some faded memories of conversations that happened over a decade ago. So that needs to be reduced into an agreement, in my opinion, and that's certainly something that could be worked out between now and next season.
Now I'll make a motion that we approve the $41,500.
I'll second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion?
And 41,500 is just for the operating, is the loss
Pool.
on operating expense on the pool? Is that
That's what he said.
how I understood that?
That is correct. And like Matt had said, in previous years, we've actually gained income in the amounts of anywhere between $3,000 to $6,000 on a yearly basis. And when he was talking about shoring up, that would be one of those things we would look at on those year-to-year basis, is taking those monies and actually putting them back into a city fund, so that when we do have a shortfall years, maybe we can go back and revert back to that fund.
I think the idea of maybe increasing your to 170 may help, but I looked at the things that are listed that through the year that you bought, if you knew you were going to be short, you could have canceled it. There's a whole lot of things in there that may have been put off to another year. They certainly were not things referencing to what had to be done prior to the opening of the year of fixing the pool. These were, added lawn chairs and et cetera, the more chemicals needed, and for whatever reason you use more chemicals when we use less water it doesn't add up. But at any rate, there are some things in there that you listed in that area that were part of the 41,000 override, and we don't have any choice except to pick it up, and I think we need to do that. If you got a $10,000 increase in your annual budget, that's good. Hopefully you can toe the line for a few years on that. But I do agree with Matt, we need to readdress and open up some thoughts and exchange of information to where we're all back on the same page again.
Most certainly.
Okay, we've had any other discussion? Okay, we've had a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Thank you.
I would recommend that we do kind of go along with what the city manager said, probably negotiate more of, guidelines or a contract or procedures, so that we have it spelled out, that we understand kind of a better understanding of who's maintaining and the actual operations, and kind of what our role is as the city, and what the Garden City Rec's role is for taking care of the pool or managing the pool or whatever that should look like, and bring that back to the city commission. Because, I think it just needs to be addressed.
I think it needs to
I agree.
be a formal agreement.
That would be my interest to do so. With respect to the property, a final action wouldn't necessarily be made by the commission until such time as you had a real estate agreement in front of you. But if there isn't objection, I would turn the disposal of the 302 North 6th Street property over to Randy for his handling, if the commission's comfortable with that.
Yeah, the Rec Commission cannot hold title to real property, but through gift, devise, or donation. So kind of like the State Theater, there was some discussion about the city buying it and then giving it to the Rec Commission. I thought that was a blatant violation of the state statute. And since the Rec Commission is organized under the city. It just seemed like it was a circumvention of the state law. Since the city owns this tract of land, I would recommend that the city be responsible for advertising, disposing of it in whatever manner is deemed appropriate. And then once the funds are acquired through the sale, then whatever the agreement is between the Rec Commission and the city, then we can follow through with that.
And there's some amount, either exactly 40,000 or some amount less, or around $40,000. That's left to satisfy the original loan from the city to the Recreation Commission. So anything in excess of the sale of that would be I think it's our intention that would go to the rec. Certainly was the origin of, well, it wasn't the origin of funds. The origin of funds were ours. They've paid us for that purchase, and so we would satisfy whatever's outstanding, and then the balance would go to them.
Do we need to amend that motion, or do we
No,
make that as a separate?
I think you can take up it's my opinion, you can take up the action when you have a real estate agreement in front of you. Really, at this point in time, we're just marketing it to see if there's interest and if there's even a possibility of selling it. The action the commission would take would be the approval of an agreement to actually sell the property from us to someone else.
The only reason I ask that is just because we have a motion in a second, and we haven't had a vote on it yet.
We did vote on the big pool. We haven't had a motion for the sale of the home.
Just direct staff to.
I think more of a consensus from the commission that we move forward on proceeding with that, and then when we do get an agreement, we would take motion on that. So I think, Madam Mayor, probably get a consensus from the commission. Is that what we're wanting to do to move forward?
I agree.
I agree. Melvin?
I agree, I was just confused.
Okay.
No.
You have a recorded vote on the pool?
Yes.
Okay. 5-0?
4.
4-0, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
You couldn't hear Chris?
No.
Subliminally.
So here's, we have a consensus, so,
All right.
for the sale of the home.
Anything else, John? From the rec side of things? All right. 9A, the governing body is asked to consider the use of the neighborhood revitalization program with the Downtown Development Fund. In the creation of the Downtown Development Fund, this was sort of an unaddressed matter that I think we hinted to. And now, before we get too far down this road, with any proposals, we want to turn it back to the commission to make sure we know where you stand on this. So I'll turn it over to Caleb to explain the dilemma.
All right, you have the memo in your packets regarding the use of the neighborhood revitalization program with the new Downtown Development Fund. With the recent adoption of the Downtown Development Fund program, staff is seeking clarification to see if the City Commission would allow that program to be used in conjunction with the neighborhood revitalization program. If the programs were both to be used for the same project, it could be a lucrative opportunity for property owners. This would also be a significant tool for the revitalization of downtown district. Using just one of the programs is very beneficial to property owners alone. And the drawback to allowing participation in the neighborhood revitalization program and the downtown development fund together would be that they would have a major impact on replenishing the general fund to be able to provide those programs in the future. And so the alternatives that are available is either allow the participation in both programs or allow participation in either the neighborhood revitalization program or the downtown development fund, but not both. Staff recommendations of the alternatives would be that of number 2, which would allow participation in either the neighborhood revitalization program or the downtown development fund, but not both. The fiscal note is that the neighborhood revitalization program allows properties a refund on property taxes for 10 years in the downtown district. Applicants are refunded a percentage of the increase of property taxes based on the valuation of the property. 75% refund for commercial projects and 95% for residential and projects on a registered historical properties are also at 95%. The increase in value could be significant based on the improvements and potential dollars from the downtown development fund. Each project would be different and would be difficult to project without knowing the exact details of each project. It's kind of shooting in the air to try to figure out exactly how much that would be based on projects. We don't know what they are. But we do know that both programs are great programs for the revitalization of downtown. We just don't know that would be the best fiscal idea to use both programs at the same time, and we need your clarification on what you would like us to do in that, to proceed with allowing individuals, and we've had several that are applying for the new downtown development fund who are also applying for the neighborhood revitalization program. We just need some clarification as to what direction you'd like us to go and proceed with in that with those individuals that are pursuing it.
So we've had more than a dozen people pick up application forms, is that correct?
That's correct. We'll probably be having on your next meeting several of those that have completed their applications for the downtown development fund to come before you. Most of them are wanting to get started on their projects or have already started because they pulled their building permits to start their projects in hopes that they can get this funding on that. There's several others that are kind of waiting to see if both programs would be available, and so others are just waiting to see what the funding is going to be left based on some of the others that they know have applied already. So
Well, I think I think it ought to be either or. I don't think you should be able to, I mean, I don't think this program was designed to pay for your whole project.
right.
I mean, I think it was designed to help as many people, or at least that's the way I looked at it. But I agree. I mean, if you're going to do one, then you shouldn't be able to do both. Would be my feeling. But
I make a motion that we allow participation in either the neighborhood revitalization program or the downtown development fund program, but not both programs.
second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I would like to say that the reason why I think it should be either or is that I would like to see this program continue, and we need a way of funding those monies in order to make that program to continue. So that's why I would think it would be a good idea to have both. So, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Item, where's my room in there? 11B. The governing body is asked to consider and approve a supplemental agreement with Wilson and Company for designing the highway and access improvements for Meadowlark Dairy Nutrition, LLC. Steve.
Okay, in August, the commission approved a contract with Wilson and Company to do the traffic study and the surveying work necessary to design the highway and access improvements for the Meadowlark plant. Traffic study has been submitted to KDOT, it's under review. Whether we get that back by before Thanksgiving or the week after is still up in the air. But in order to proceed, Wilson and Company has prepared a supplemental agreement to their contract for the design portion of the work based on their recommendations in the traffic study, which I don't think will be deviated much from or be any big changes. So this should be a fairly decent and the cost, and should not have to come back for modification at a later date. The estimated, or the fee of $90,700 is very reasonable. It's for a civil engineering project. It could have been another $30,000 to $40,000 higher based on the magnitude of the project. So this is a very reasonable fee. And we recommend authorization of the supplemental agreement so they can continue with their project and keep us online to meet our deadlines with Meadowlark.
Oh, it says 6 weeks. Let's see, field check plans.
Yeah,
Delivered in 6 weeks.
the review process is, field check is approximately what KDOT considers about a 55% completion, just to make sure that everything is being caught before we actually proceed with the final set of drawings. So there is an interim review before we go to submit final plans for their approval.
What is it going to be? A turning lane?
Yeah.
Is that basically what it is?
Yeah, the traffic study recommends a southbound left turn lane into the site. Even though the numbers may not necessarily warrant for northbound, we are going to have a taper and a bit of a turn lane for northbound trucks to turn into that site. Also depends on final disposition of where Heber sand trucks will end up in the future, whether they're going to be coming in from the west side, or if we can continue to come underneath the bridge and access through their current route now. But all that traffic has been taken into account in the study, so we're geared to go either way as we need. Budgetarily, it looks like if the Heber traffic comes from the west, it's not going to greatly impact the budget on the construction project. So I think we're still going to be in great shape as far as what KDOT has tentatively offered.
You said earlier we approved this agreement, but there will be possibly a second one coming.
Yeah, once
Yeah.
we get the plans approved, we will have to have an inspection or construction engineering contract for them to actually inspect the work that's going on to certify to KDOT that it's actually being constructed properly.
But that shouldn't change too much from this.
Well,
Would that be an additional?
that'll be an additional fee,
Okay.
and it'll actually be based on the amount of working days, and once we get a good handle for the exact types of things that
It
have
wouldn't have to be Wilson Company though to do that part of it. I mean, they don't have an office out here or anybody.
No, but if we're to switch, then based on our purchasing and contracting policy, we would have to go through another selection process. And we do have to have KDOT certified inspectors on the project, and Wilson has those people. So,
Well, I'd make a motion that we accept Wilson Company's proposal of 90,000 something,
700.
700.
I'll say.
I'll second.
There's been a motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next two items are legislative policies. We'll start with the City of Garden City policy. I think that may be out of order in the packet. I'll turn this over to Ashley.
Mayor and Commission, the first legislative policy overview is the city's legislative policy. This policy outlines the initiatives the city will ask the elected officials on the state and federal levels to champion on our behalf. A couple of notable changes this year. We've added a section on the tax spending lid that came up as part of Senate sub for House Bill 2109 during the last legislative session. This language reflects the same language that we put in the SKC policy that was discussed at our SKC meeting in October. The tax spending lid was already a part of our core principles at the front of the policy, but we went ahead and pulled it out and made it its own section. Another change is that we removed the section on Kansas Affordable Airfares Program because 2015 was the last year for KAAP funding. And a third change is the addition of a section on contact with potentially dangerous animals. And Zoo Director Christine Newland is here, and she can speak a little bit more on this issue. But we ask the management team each year for any issues that have come up that are specific to their departments that the rest of us might not know about. And this is one of the issues that Christy brought up. Last year, Senate Bill 97 was passed in the Senate, but it didn't make it through the House and Ag and Natural Resources Committee. It will probably be back. This bill rescinds protections for the general public from contact with potentially dangerous animals. As written and amended, it would have allowed for full contact by the general public with lions, tigers, jaguars, mountain lions, and leopards weighing less than 10 pounds, and incidental contact with those same animals weighing less than 40 pounds. As you're aware, Lee Richardson Zoo is an accredited institutional member of the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, and AZA provides the highest in standards for captive care and well-being of animals in zoological settings. The AZA is opposed to this sort of contact, therefore Lee Richardson Zoo is as well. Even if this bill were to pass, Lee Richardson Zoo wouldn't allow that sort of contact between its animals and the visitors to the zoo. However, allowing such contact could be harmful to the zoo profession. And like I said, if you're interested in hearing more, I'm sure Christy can share more about that particular issue, but those are the three notable changes to this year's legislative policy.
Thank you, Ashley. Christy, would you like to talk a little bit more about that issue?
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Before the legislature last year, a state facility brought up an issue generally viewed as a handling bill to restrict or to rescind some of the protections for the general public with contact with dangerous animals. And it would allow full contact with animals under 10 pounds of those species which Ashley listed. And that basically means, as they wrote it, that the person standing there working at the facility maintains control but gives possession of this little animal under 10 pounds to another person. Doesn't have any age restrictions, so it could be handing a week-old, 2-week-old lion cub to a 5-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And the incidental contact for animals under 40 pounds of those species is defined as I, as the person at the facility, have this animal on a leash or in a harness of some sort, so I'm maintaining control in that regard, while the other person, again, not defined by any ages or anything else, is right up, petting the animal, getting their picture taken or whatever. I don't know about y'all, but I don't have that good of control of my little Jack Russell by a leash to be able to keep it from, possibly pawing or something, the person that's right next to it. So as I said, while we wouldn't change any of our practices, if this does come back and if it does pass, incidents in the state of Kansas, can reflect on everybody in the state, just as Haley's Act ended up resulting in the protections that we have currently.
Thank you.
Thank you. I make a motion that we approve 2016 legislative policy for the Garden City legislative policy document as presented.
I'll second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I'd like to say, Ashley, if she was the one that put this together, which it looks like she did an outstanding job. It looks very professionally done and really portrays the community with all the photos and a very nicely put together document. So,
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carried.
The next item is the Southwest Kansas Coalition Policy.
The Southwest Kansas Coalition Policy was discussed pretty much item by item at the Southwest Kansas Coalition meeting on October 15th. There were some changes with economic development. There was just a sentence added that says restriction on use of programs stated there should not hinder practical application. Just a very common sense sentence added there. Under home rule, we included a sentence reminding everyone that home rule was constitutional home rule authority of Kansas Cities was approved by Kansas voters in 1960, so that's got a long tradition in our state. And then again, under air transportation, we took out the Kansas Affordable Airfares Program, and then we added language on the tax spending lid, and this is the same language that you just approved in the Garden City policy. So the difference, to differentiate between the Garden City policy and the SKC policy, the SKC policy includes issues that are common amongst Garden City, Liberal, and Dodge City, who are the members of the Southwest Kansas Coalition. And then the city's policy has additional issues that relate more to just the city of Garden City.
Okay, I make a motion, we approve legislative policies for the 2016 SKC, Southwest Kansas Coalition, legislative policies.
second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank
you,
you.
Ashley.
Item 11E, the commission is asked to consider applicants for appointment to the Zoo Advisory Board. Chrissy, do you have anything to add other than what's in the memo?
No, sir.
I believe we have 2 applicants for the 2 positions. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Ms. Leitner and Ms. Dursting.
I make a motion that we approve the recommendations of the 2 appointments to the Zoo Advisory Board.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Do we need to identify what's the unexpired term? They're the same year?
Mhm.
Okay.
Aren't they? No, one's got a longer term than the
There's a year difference.
Do we need to
Yes.
state which one goes to which? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
First one gets a longer term. I don't know.
The commission so desires, I recommend that, is it
Ryan.
Miss Leitner?
Donna Leitner.
Donna Leitner take the 2017 term and Ryan Denniston take the 2018 term.
Okay.
Take it.
We need to do a motion for that?
Included as part of the
Just
original
part of the
motion.
motion.
Okay.
I include that as part of my motion.
Okay,
You
moving
agree?
on.
Did he say-
Item F, 1 through 5 double M is the consent agenda. There's no changes.
Okay.
Okay, I'll make a motion of the approval of consent agenda, approval F5 through double M.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carried. This next commissioner reports. Commissioner Dale, you're on first.
Let's see where I got something written down. Yeah, first I want to say congratulations to Michael Hernandez for his safety award. We do that several times a year, and I think it's such a valuable thing and tool for our employees to be rewarded and pick out individuals, which gives others encouragement to try to strive to do a little better. And I think we have a pretty good track record, and we also have a lot of people that work in some pretty dangerous stuff, and they seem to manage to do it without hurting themselves. I'd like to congratulate Linda Hitz on her award. It's one of those things that we received several times, I know, and you cannot just sit back and say, okay, well, she got another award. It's every year that you do that and probably apply and you succeed as well as you have done, it not only is good for you, it's good for every one of us, and it's good for our city because they understand the just how well we're run, and there's a lot of envy out there in other cities that you have done here. I just hope you have eternal life because you can't retire. And congratulate all city people that participated in the United Way. Well done, and that's certainly will go a long way in our community. And I want to thank the community for the turnout for the Veterans Parade. It was quite a few entries, and I was really surprised at the number of people that were gathered downtown to pay respect. You know, someday, certainly not in my lifetime or anybody's lifetime here, that we'll ever run out of veterans. And I hope that we as individuals every year can pay respect and honor to them, and not only to them but to their families too, because I attended a Marine ball. Well, it was their birthday ball. It was their 240th. I only went, because I was in the Navy and we were 3 days older than they are, so they're part of the Navy. But they have a tradition in the Marine Corps. They honor the youngest and the oldest Marine in attendance. The youngest was honored and just got back from boot camp. The oldest was a 92-year-old woman.
Oh, really?
And looked very healthy still. She was there, and it slips my mind. A couple things. First, I can't remember the name, and somebody here will be able to help me with it. But they were honored for their son that was lost a number of years ago in Kuwait. I think it was in 2011. They both were on the police department. She was an evidence technician and he was one of the staff members. And can you help me as to who that? Bachman. Yeah. They honored them there. And I'm sorry. They got a standing ovation and they deserved it. But we can't remember, or stop remembering our Marines, or not our Marines, but our veterans, regardless of whether they fought 50, 100 years ago, but we still have to honor them. Thank you.
Commissioner Okay, Councilman.
I'd just like to thank Mike Muirhead for his presentation on the Utility Service Center this morning. It's good information. Also, Mike Hernandez on his safety award, and Melinda, good job. Keep up the good work. And that's all I have.
Mr. Sessa.
Echoing the other commissioners on the great things that our staff have done and their awards that they've received. I'd like to thank Matt and the staff for the training that we received just recently on leadership training for the commission. Thought it was a good session for us just to kind of analyze where we're at and kind of build our skills as leaders and understand who we are better and help us better to serve in our roles as commissioners. Again, good information this morning at the pre-meeting. Asked Mike if we could get an update on where we're at with the efficiency study on, or where they're changing the lights out on the street lights, kind of where we're at on that.
Certainly. Cliff Sonnenberg, the electrical superintendent, will address that.
Okay.
Mayor, Commissioners, the first phase of our lighting upgrade project, which is all of the street, security, and roadway lighting east of 3rd, we're about 97% finished with that. We have a few of the directional LED flood security lights yet to change out, and some on Kansas Avenue and Campus Drive yet on the roadway. We're working with the contractors on specialty upgrades, which is what we did on Main Street with the decorative lights. We've got the parking lot out here and in front of the building, and also the lights along the depot that we're looking for a retrofit for those to get those done. And so long as the weather holds out and the roadways are clear for those guys to work safely and not slick, they'll stay with that and stay on it. So we're on track, on schedule with that project.
Should be finished by the first part of the year, or how many, about what, March?
I think March
is what our schedule is, so we're on schedule to be finished by March then.
Right, with the
Okay.
street lighting part of the upgrade.
Sure.
So.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Actually, that's all I had. But again, congratulations to the staff for all their hard work. And I know it takes a lot of work to do what they do. And kind of back to what Commissioner Dale likes to refer to, make us as commissioners look good. But it takes a lot of behind-the-scenes work. And the awards that they receive show that they really do outstanding work. And all of the staff really does for the city. So congratulations to all of them and all that they do. So thank you.
Okay, Melinda, congratulations on your certificate of excellence. We'd just like you to know how much your diligence and perfectionism is appreciated. And Michael Hernandez for his safety award, and the staff for all their contributions to United Way. And thank you, Mike, for the presentation this morning about the utility department, and just a lot of good information that we learned this morning, so thank you. A lot of stuff going on. Veterans Day Parade was, as Melvin said, was very well attended, and their hamburger feed, the ceremony they had at the American Legion building was really nice afterwards. There were at least 5 World War II veterans there, which was, I thought, very impressive. We had the groundbreaking ceremony at Parrot Cove, and Buffalo Wild Wings opened, and the neighborhood Walmart on the west side of town had its grand opening, and Garden City Community College had their ceremony for their new welding building and their housing that they have put up. Ashley and I went to Washington, D.C. with some people from Dodge City and Liberal to meet with our representatives there. We met with Senator Moran, Senator Roberts, Congresswoman Jenkins, her district is the 2nd district, but she's been very helpful for us. She even got up and testified for the Tiger Grant for Amtrak. Congressman Huelskamp and Senator Bob Dole. So, and felt like it went really well. It was nice having a small group. It was a lot more intimate. We could just sit down and have a nice chat and talk about different things. And working as a coalition, I think gives us a bigger presence, and I think we're well received. And there's some things that wouldn't happen in this community if that kind of endeavors weren't taken on. So then, let's see. Also, I had the opportunity to speak for a few days at Horace Good Middle School. And there's something I wanted to tell you about. Officer Robert Ojeda has put together a program for the students, and it's called SEAL Hawks. And I get to be an honorary member. You get a rubber band with the blue, the thin blue line, which represents the police. And his plan for this, the SEAL stands for Safety, Education, and Leadership Students. And you get to be a member of this if you have a good grade point average. You understand how important teamwork is and the ability to apply that in all areas of your life. And you have a desire to be a good human being, and that you follow the mission comes first, teamwork second, and you're last, yourself. But the thin blue line represents the fallen brothers and sisters in law enforcement who gave their lives in the line of duty, and their families and friends who carry on after them. It also shows support for the officers who serve today in your communities, and in that as students that hopefully they will help eventually shape their community and one day patrol themselves. And they're willing to help your fellow students and other people as informal leaders and to be counted on to do the right thing even if you're the only one. So I want to commend Officer Ojeda for his commitment to the youth in our community and the positive influence that has had. It's just really cool. So. And I'm proud to be able to get to wear one. So, and that's all I have.
Can I add one thing right quick? When you mentioned the groundbreakings and dedications and grand openings, there was that one day that it was a nonstop. I mean, every hour it was every hour on the hour. But a lot of good information came out of that, and I know Representative Dahl really mentioned and kind of set the tone with his speech at one of the events. But you know, we really do work together as a community, and we do all toe the line to make Garden City a great place. Not only the City Commission, but the County Commission, the School Board, the Community College Board of Trustees. We all have the same hope and vision for our community to make it the great and best place to raise a family. And as the mayor says, we are open for business here in the community. And as we proved a pretty big purchase agreement, it just shows that we are committed to being open and wanting business to come to Garden City. So I thought that was a great line, and it does show that other communities always look to Garden City on what we do or how are we doing it, and it's because we all work together to make Garden City the best place to live and raise a family. So thank you. See, we're trying to drag this out to make it a little longer.
Okay, I was just checking to see when the next meeting was, and that's after Christmas parade. Who all wants to be in the parade this year?
I can't. I won't be there.
I don't think I'll be there.
I think I'll be here. So. We don't know about
He just
this.
wants to drive his.
Oh, you have your car
I'll
back?
drive the mayor in my car in the Christmas parade.
There you go.
Awesome.
Are you gonna wear your Santa outfit too?
No.
Oh.
Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll call this meeting adjourned.